You know that strange feeling when no matter how hard you fight, pray, work, or even fast, things just don't move forward? It's like there's an invisible barrier surrounding you, and despite your faith, your search for answers in the Bible, attending services and Bible studies, the doors remain shut. This isn't just your imagination. In Christian spirituality, it has a name: spiritual financial blockage. It's when unseen forces, often ones we don't even suspect, quietly work to stall your finances, your home, your progress, your projects. And understand this, it has nothing to do with luck, bad luck, or coincidence. This is spiritual warfare, and it's far more real than many realize. That's why, in this video, the goal is to teach you a simple yet powerful practice that Padre Pio recommended to protect your home and activate both spiritual and material abundance. Maybe you've never heard of it, but placing consecrated salt in 5 specific spots around your house can make all the difference. It's a gesture of faith, protection, and blessing that few Catholics know about. And to strengthen this chain of prayer, write in the comments, "Lord, bless my home and deliver us from all evil." A simple act of faith that opens doors for grace and protection. Now, discover which 5 places to put the salt and how to apply this Christian practice in your home. What if I told you this doesn't discriminate? Young Christians, entire families, business owners, homemakers, missionaries, people living active devotional lives. All are vulnerable when they don't understand the spiritual laws governing prosperity according to the gospel. What's most curious? Sometimes the person is a tither, a giver, someone who prays, fasts, attends worship services, reads the Bible. Yet abundance still doesn't come. Bills pile up, debts tighten, jobs disappear, businesses stall. And worse, that poisonous thought creeps in, "Has God forgotten me?" which slowly eats away at faith and chills the heart. Here's what almost no one talks about in sermons or Bible studies. There are spiritual cracks left open, often right inside your own home, blocking not just prosperity but harmony, emotional health, relationships, and even your walk with Christ. And yes, those cracks can be sealed. But not in the way the world teaches, nor with magic formulas. This is where a surprising teaching comes in. Something passed down by none other than Padre Pio himself, a man of unwavering faith, full of the Holy Spirit, who left behind a powerful and little-known spiritual legacy on how to activate abundance in your home according to Christian spirituality. Very few know this, but among Padre Pio's many spiritual teachings, there is one kept almost like a hidden treasure, shared only with those who truly sought to understand the mysteries of faith and Christian spirituality. It's a simple but deeply powerful method that can break invisible chains blocking prosperity, abundance, and even peace inside your home. And no, this isn't about charms or magical practices. It's something deeply rooted in Christian faith, validated by Scripture and the testimony of countless devotees. This secret revolves around an element that, to the inattentive eye, seems ordinary, simple, even mundane. But when used with faith, prayer, and within a devotional context, it becomes a true spiritual weapon. Salt. That's right. The same salt you keep in your kitchen, when used properly according to Padre Pio's teaching, transforms into a powerful spiritual shield against forces working in the unseen. This practice goes beyond tradition because it is grounded in the Bible, the Gospel, and Christian life. And here's something curious. Many young Christians and even churchgoers have no idea about this principle. Padre Pio himself said, "Most spiritual battles are lost inside the home because few know how to protect their own household." Within this secret, he taught not only how to consecrate the salt but also where to place it, how to pray over it, and which spiritual intention must be activated. This is no ordinary salt. It carries prayer, faith, praise, and the living presence of Jesus Christ, who breaks chains, closes spiritual breaches, and opens doors, including in your financial life. And yes, there are impressive testimonies of transformation from people who began practicing this. Don't worry, very soon you'll understand exactly how this process works. In Christian spirituality, few elements carry as much symbolism as salt. It's no coincidence it appears throughout the Bible, always linked to protection, purification, covenant, and prosperity. Have you ever stopped to think why Jesus said in the Gospel, "You are the salt of the earth"? That wasn't just a metaphor. Since ancient times, salt has played a crucial role in preserving life, purification, and even consecrating places. That's why it holds such enormous spiritual power when used in a context of faith, prayer, and active devotional life. Padre Pio understood this spiritual dimension of salt deeply. He knew that when prayed over and consecrated, it became an invisible shield, able to block not only negative energies but also evil spiritual influences often responsible for blockages in finances, family relationships, and even emotional health. That's why even today, many churches use holy salt in their rites, because it symbolizes not just protection but also the living covenant with God, alive, real, and active in daily life. Here's a detail few have heard in sermons, Bible studies, or worship services. Salt doesn't work by itself. It's not a charm, superstition, or magic. Its power is directly tied to the faith, prayer, and spiritual intention of the one who consecrates it. And more, when used correctly, it doesn't just spiritually cleanse the environment but opens doors that have been shut for years, whether in finances, professional life, marriage, or health. It's like you're activating a spiritual fortress right there in your home, one that can completely change the atmosphere and, in turn, your life. Now that you understand the spiritual power of salt, it's time to learn a detail that truly matters: where to place this salt inside your house to genuinely activate protection and abundance. And this isn't guesswork. Padre Pio taught that, in Christian spirituality, there are 5 strategic points that act as true spiritual gateways within a home. When these spots are left unprotected, they open doors to spiritual attacks that block finances, stir up arguments, bring discouragement, anxiety, and even illness. But when sealed with faith, prayer, and the presence of the Holy Spirit, they become sources of blessings, peace, and prosperity. The first place is the front door of your home. It may seem simple, but spiritually it works as a gateway, both for blessings to enter and for negative influences. The second spot is the bedrooms, especially where people sleep, because we're most vulnerable spiritually while resting. The third is the kitchen, which not only symbolizes provision but also represents the family's finances and health. The fourth point is the living room or gathering area, where energy flows most freely, where conversations, meetings, and often arguments, gossip, and negative words take place, contaminating the space. And finally, the fifth place, something few know, is the bathroom, which spiritually represents a place of release and drainage, where heavy energies tend to accumulate. And here's the thing: you can't just scatter salt in these places randomly. There's a right way to do it, a small ritual of faith that needs to be performed. You must pray, consecrate the salt, ask for the protection of Jesus Christ, and, when placing the salt, declare aloud that this home belongs to the Lord, that all evil influence is broken, and that spiritual, emotional, and financial abundance is unleashed, in Jesus' name. Only then do you activate what we call the spiritual shield of the home. Now, hold on, I'll soon teach you exactly how to perform this ritual. But first, let me share what happened to those who put this into practice. You might think this sounds strange or even doubtful at first. After all, talking about salt, Christian spirituality, spiritual protection, and financial breakthrough isn't exactly common in typical church services or Bible studies. But the truth is, there are hundreds of faith testimonies from people who took up this practice and saw their lives transform in ways they never expected. And it's not just about financial blessings. People report that after consecrating their homes, arguments stopped, mysterious illnesses vanished, addictions were broken, and even family relationships were restored. Want a real-life example? A woman named Mrs. Lourdes, an active church member struggling with endless debts, decided to try this method after learning about Padre Pio's teachings. She placed salt in the 5 key spots, prayed, consecrated her home, and in less than a week, she received a job offer she'd been waiting on for over 2 years. And it wasn't coincidence. That same week, her son, who had drifted away from the church and Jesus' path, decided to return to services, and even joined the youth Christian group. All of this happened after years of unanswered prayer. And it doesn't stop there. There are stories of business owners on the brink of bankruptcy who, after applying this devotional principle, not only got out of debt but began to prosper in surprising ways. It's like something got unlocked, and indeed it did. Because this isn't just about money. It's about breaking spiritual chains, opening heaven's doors over your life, and allowing the blessings promised in the Bible to start showing up. The best part? Anyone with faith can do this. And all of this is possible because there's a much deeper biblical foundation behind this simple act. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about now. Great. Let's move on to topic 6, the biblical foundation for using salt. Open book. Topic 6, the biblical foundation for using salt. Since ancient times, the Bible highlights salt as a symbol of covenant, purity, and protection. In the Old Testament, salt is a fundamental part of sacrifices and offerings to God, representing the eternal covenant between the Creator and His people. For example, in Leviticus 2 verse 13, God commands that every offering be seasoned with salt because salt is the symbol of the everlasting covenant. This instruction shows that salt is no ordinary thing. It's a substance loaded with spiritual meaning, able to seal agreements and protect what is consecrated. Moreover, the Gospel of Matthew 5 verse 13 reinforces salt's role in the Christian life. You are the salt of the earth, but if the salt loses its flavor, how shall it be seasoned? This passage carries a deep lesson, as Jesus is saying that His followers must be agents of spiritual transformation and preservation in the world. Salt here represents the living faith that preserves and protects the soul, keeping the home and relationships intact, preventing the corruption that darkness tries to bring. It's a call for every Christian to be a living, active presence, an agent who draws blessing and repels evil. Finally, the use of salt in Christian spirituality invites constant devotional practice, grounded in prayer, praise, and worship of Jesus Christ. When a family, for instance, consecrates salt in their home, they are making a concrete act of faith, recognizing the importance of divine protection and the need to keep their home as a spiritual sanctuary. Thus, salt becomes a visible link in the invisible covenant between God and His people, a sign that the church isn't just the temple walls but the heart of the home, where the gospel is lived daily. Padre Pio is one of the most remarkable figures in 20th century Christian spirituality. Born in Italy, his life was marked by a deep connection with Jesus Christ, revealed through spiritual gifts far beyond the ordinary. His stigmata, the wounds of Christ He bore on His body, were not just physical signs but true windows into the spiritual world. Through this direct connection, he could see invisible blockages, those very barriers that hold back prosperity and peace within families. For him, faith and prayer were powerful weapons against these forces trying to disrupt people's lives. The miracles attributed to Padre Pio are countless, documented by testimonies from believers who experienced physical healings, spiritual liberation, and profound life changes. Among these graces was also the gift of intercession. Many accounts say he acted as a channel of divine blessings, especially for those facing financial, family, and spiritual struggles. His life stands as a clear example of how true Christian spirituality shows itself in daily practice, in constant devotional prayer, love for the Church, and total surrender to Jesus Christ. Moreover, Padre Pio taught that it's not enough to know the faith superficially. You must live it with intensity, open your heart to praise and worship, and always stay alert to the gospel's messages to recognize the enemy's attacks. He warned that spiritual blockages often arise from a life disconnected from prayer and communion with God. That's why his guidance on using salt and other devotional practices were not mere superstitions, but pathways to restore spiritual harmony and activate the abundance Jesus Christ promised to all His followers. On the journey of faith, one of the greatest challenges Christians face is the adverse spiritual influences that try to undermine peace and prosperity in the home and personal life. These negative forces work silently, often showing up as discouragement, family conflicts, financial struggles, or even unexplained illnesses. It's essential to understand that the spiritual realm is real, and these energies can directly impact our daily lives, interfering with the purpose Jesus Christ has for each of us. Therefore, spiritual protection becomes an essential practice, not just a symbolic gesture but an active defense grounded in prayer, faith, and tangible elements like consecrated salt. Padre Pio, with his divine wisdom, taught that identifying and neutralizing these forces is the first step to restoring order and harmony at home, allowing the light of the gospel to shine through and making the environment impenetrable to evil through praise and worship. In everyday life, this protection also shows itself through worship, Bible study, and strengthening family spirituality. It's important to highlight that this fight against negative forces is not a solitary battle. The Church offers a community, a spiritual support system that strengthens the believer. The use of salt, combined with prayer and sincere intention, acts as a shield that blocks these influences, creating a space where prosperity and love can grow. Staying vigilant, renouncing thoughts and attitudes that open doors to the enemy, and constantly seeking Jesus Christ's presence through devotional prayer are essential for anyone wanting to live a full life in faith, free from chains that block abundance. No spiritual practice, no matter how powerful, will bear fruit if it's not anchored in genuine faith and true intention. It's common to see people trying to use spiritual elements like salt as mere lucky charms, some kind of magic to fix problems. But what truly makes the difference is an open heart, trust in Jesus Christ, and the certainty that prosperity and blessing come from the divine hand, not from a material object. This deep connection between faith and intention turns a simple ritual into a real gateway to the supernatural. The intention behind placing salt in the 5 sacred spots in the home must be clear and strong. It's not enough just to sprinkle the salt. You must do so with prayer, praise, and worship, recognizing that you're inviting God's presence to work in that space. It's like saying, "Lord, I trust you. I believe your power can transform my life and my family's." That attitude creates the resonance needed for Padre Pio's method to manifest in reality, breaking blockages, opening paths, and allowing abundance to flow. Furthermore, faith and intention must be accompanied by a life of constant, committed prayer. Christianity teaches us that spirituality is not a one-time event but a lifestyle involving daily worship, Bible study, and faithful testimony. So the practice of using salt should be part of this devotional routine, strengthening the relationship with Jesus Christ and the Church. When this happens, spiritual protection becomes a tangible reality, capable of transforming not only finances but also health, relationships, and inner peace. Maintaining the effectiveness of spiritual protection through salt requires discipline and care. Padre Pio taught that the salt should be renewed weekly, preferably on Sundays, the day consecrated to prayer and renewal of faith. This ritual isn't just a formality but a moment of reconnecting with spirituality, an opportunity to renew intention, strengthen prayer, and ask Jesus Christ's blessing on the home. Changing the salt on this sacred day helps keep spiritual energy alive, fresh, and powerful, ready to repel any blockage or negative influence that might have settled. The proper way to discard used salt also holds spiritual meaning. It's recommended to throw it into running water, symbolizing cleansing and purification, allowing impurities to be carried away. This act reinforces the Christian's commitment to holiness and purity within the home, showing that faith is not static but dynamic and renewing. It's as if each change is a small offering, an act of worship that strengthens the bond between the believer's heart and the love of God revealed in the gospel. Finally, this weekly ritual can be woven into other devotional practices, like reading a passage from the Bible, sharing a moment of praise, or praying together as a family. In this way, placing salt in the sacred spots of the home becomes a form of home worship, a celebration of living faith that unites the family and keeps the house protected. This spiritual discipline strengthens both young Christians and adults, awakening a deeper awareness of the importance of constant prayer and spiritual vigilance in everyday life. On the journey of Christian spirituality, learning to balance the pursuit of prosperity with the practice of generosity is essential for a full and blessed life. Too often, people desire prosperity just to accumulate material goods, forgetting that true abundance, as taught by Jesus Christ, is something that multiplies when shared. Padre Pio emphasized that the purpose of prosperity is to support the family, help those in need, and strengthen the church community. Faith, therefore, should inspire Christians to be channels of blessings for others, not just recipients. Christian generosity can take many simple, practical forms, from offering food to the hungry, providing clothing for those in need, to giving time to welcome and listen to others. These acts, part of daily worship and testimonies of faith, create a cycle of blessings that returns multiplied to those who practice them. The Gospel also reminds us that a generous heart is always rewarded, for God sees and blesses those who live in love for their neighbor, a fundamental lesson especially for young Christians building their spiritual path. However, it's important to understand that this balance isn't automatic. It requires spiritual vigilance, constant prayer, and a clear intention to live faith in practice. For example, using salt in the 5 sacred spots around the home isn't just a gesture of protection and prosperity, but also a reminder of the responsibility each person has to use that abundance for good. This awareness strengthens spirituality, creates a genuine atmosphere of worship, and prepares the ground for blessings that go far beyond finances, touching health, harmony, and family peace. Often, the search for prosperity focuses only on financial matters, but spirituality reveals that true abundance is much broader and deeper. When a home is protected through faith practices, like using salt in the sacred places, the effects appear in surprising areas such as health, family harmony, and mental clarity. It's as if the presence of Jesus Christ, called forth through prayer and worship, creates a field of positive energy that heals, unites, and renews, touching every part of the lives of those who live there. Many faith testimonies tell of significant changes after applying the salt method. Unexplained health problems begin to ease, family conflicts lessen, and communication becomes more open and loving. In addition, the mind grows clearer and more focused, making wise decisions easier and pushing away anxiety and fear that so often block progress. These results come from active spirituality, a devotional practice that goes beyond simple ritual and becomes a lifestyle rooted in the gospel and faith in Jesus Christ. It's important to remember that these benefits don't come by chance but as the fruit of combining constant prayer, true worship, and conscious use of spiritual elements. The Church, as a community of faith, offers support and learning through Bible studies, strengthening young and mature Christians alike to live this transformation. Thus, spiritual protection of the home isn't just an act of defense but an opening to a full life, rich in praise, worship, and faith testimonies that impact the world around. Throughout history, countless stories prove the transforming power of this spiritual protection method using salt, especially among those seeking the intercession of Jesus Christ and the strength of constant prayer. From World War II, when families amid chaos and scarcity reported miracles after applying this practice, to today, faith testimonies show that prosperity and spiritual protection are real results of deep and sincere devotion. These stories are more than mere accounts. They are living proof that spirituality and religion can perform miracles in everyday life. Many young Christians, in particular, find in Padre Pio's tradition a sure path to overcome financial and emotional crises. For example, a couple facing long-term unemployment found jobs and stabilized their income after placing salt in the 5 designated spots, always accompanied by prayer and praise. Another remarkable case is a woman who, after years of debts and hardships, felt spiritual peace fill her home and saw her finances miraculously reorganize. These examples inspire and show that the gospel, combined with practical faith, can overcome any obstacle. Beyond contemporary accounts, the Church holds records and sermons highlighting salt as a symbol of covenant and protection, demonstrating that this practice has deep roots in Christian spirituality. The ongoing sharing of these stories strengthens the community, inspires worship, and keeps alive the teachings of saints like Padre Pio, who devoted his life to witnessing Jesus Christ's power to transform the faithful. These stories pave the way to reflect on the need for protection against negative forces, the next step in our study. It's essential to understand that, while salt plays a powerful role in spirituality, it is not a magic charm that automatically solves all problems. Padre Pio always warned that using salt must be deeply rooted in faith, sincere prayer, and daily devotional practice. Without this strong foundation, the technique can turn into mere superstition, an obstacle that pulls away from Christianity's true purpose, a living, conscious relationship with Jesus Christ and the Church. Genuine faith, then, is the driving force that breathes life and power into this practice. Superstition is born from fear and insecurity, and often leads young Christians and believers away from the true spirituality taught in the Bible. That's why using salt must always be paired with a life of constant prayer, praise, and worship, alongside Bible study that deepens understanding of the gospel and God's presence in daily life. The Church has always emphasized that spiritual symbols are tools, not solutions by themselves. Real transformation happens in the heart that seeks God with faith and genuine intention. Moreover, living a life of righteousness and following the teachings of the gospel are essential for this method to truly work. Using salt doesn't replace the sermon, confession, or active participation in worship and church community. On the contrary, it complements and extends the spiritual commitment every Christian must hold. Knowing this helps avoid falling into false beliefs and instead embrace authentic faith, the kind that moves mountains and attracts the blessings of Jesus Christ. Now that we've grasped the depth and power of this spiritual protection method using salt, it's time to act with faith and courage. True transformation happens when each person decides to apply this knowledge at home, with an open heart full of prayer. It's not enough to just know the technique. You have to live it, share the results, and strengthen the faith community seeking Jesus Christ at all times. Faith testimonies have the power to inspire and open doors for many others still spiritually blocked. Encouraging family, friends, and young Christians to practice this devotion makes the gospel come alive and active in everyday life. The Church grows when every member understands their spiritual mission and puts lessons of worship, praise, and Bible study into practice, deepening their connection to God and community. It's a true chain of blessings that multiplies, bringing prosperity not only financially but also emotionally, spiritually, and within families. So the invitation is clear: don't wait. Start placing salt in the 5 sacred places of your home now, renew your faith with daily prayer, and watch the changes unfold. Share your testimonies and help spread this simple yet powerful practice. In this way, faith is renewed, spirituality blossoms, and Christianity grows strong in every home, opening the path to a blessed future filled with hope.